Hello everybody, welcome to Catherine Sews. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know what, a friend of mine gave me a whole roll of what I just thought was a beautiful plaid fabric. It's plaid flannelette, and I just think that's going to make a gorgeous men's shirt. So that's what I'm doing today. Making a men's shirt has a few details to it that I'm not gonna lie, they're not easy. The collar, cuffs, the placket on a men's shirt, those can all be really tricky steps, but I'm going to break it down for you and take it step by step, and I think you're going to enjoy the process. I've already gone ahead and cut out all my pieces, and I did it in my classroom where I've got a huge cutting table. So that's the first thing. I'm just going to show you some tips of how I got the plaid to match and just some little things that I think make it a bit easier. The pattern that I'm going to be using is McCall's 8415, and it's still available widely. I can put a link to it in the description. But this pattern is kind of nice because it has short sleeve shirt, long sleeve shirt, smart little vest, and a little bow tie too. So that's really nice. But I'm just making the shirt casual, like just a plaid shirt. So there are a few little steps that I'll be skipping, especially in the undercollar treatment. I'm not making this like a dress shirt. Because this whole project is 49 steps long, I'm going to have to break it into 3 separate videos. So in today's video, I'm just gonna do the front, the pocket, the back, and the yoke. And then in the second video, it's just gonna be the collar and the collar stand. And then the last video is gonna be the sleeves, including that placket, which is actually a technique I love to do. It always comes out looking so pro, and it's not as hard as it looks. So I'm gonna break that down for you nicely. So the last video is gonna be the sleeve placket, the underarm seam, and all the finishing with the buttons and the hem. So I think that's gonna be really nice, and I'm super glad to have you along for the ride. So let's get busy. I'm gonna show you the cutting, and then we'll get right into the first sewing step. Okay, so in my classroom, my desk is just giant, so I lay that out. I folded it along the middle of one plaid so that when I peeled it back, I could see that yes, the plaid was all lined up with itself. Now this plaid is woven in, so that makes it a little bit easier, like more trustworthy. So now to match the plaid, I found the notch on the side seam of the front and saw that that notch was landing at the bottom of the dark horizontal stripe. So I just made sure to place the back in the same way. That same notch is at the bottom of the dark stripe. The front placket I just laid right beside the front, so for sure it is lined up. After I cut, I like to put a little notch in the center front, and then I just notched the pleat at the back and then snipped into all of the notches, the single notches and the double notches, and I just used the tip of my scissors to cut those notches. Don't ever use a rotary cutter to cut your notches. They will be way too big. For the collar, I put the center of the collar right in the middle of a plaid and made sure that the points of the collar were landing in the same place as each other. I laid the yoke in a similar way to the collar. For the pocket, I put that pocket piece on top of the front and drew where the plaid was falling, and then I could easily move that pocket piece into a section to line up the plaid in the exact same way. So I know that's going to match. I have cut all my pieces and I got the large. I've also interfaced my collar, the collar stand, the cuffs, and the front band. You only need one front band. For the front, I cut both of them the full width, but then I cut here for left front. So this is the left front, and so it's cut back to that line. I could just fold my pattern piece on that line and cut that off evenly. I've also marked the pocket placement with pins. I could put a wax mark, but I know I'm going to be pressing this quite a bit, and the pocket step is coming up next, and so I'm not too worried about losing my pins. So I'm just marking the top with pins. The instructions say to press under 5/8 of an inch or 1.5 centimeters on the long unnotched edge. I'm going to do the opposite and turn it under on the notched edge. And this piece is completely symmetrical, so I just cut a notch also on the other edge, just so I have that for later. But it's this edge that I'm going to be turning at the iron. Using a sewing gauge, I can set it to 5/8 or 1.5 centimeters and turn that. I think it's okay if it's a little bit less too. And then you can also just kind of eyeball it and do pinky finger width. Get the iron to hold it for you while you measure your next bit. Nice shot of steam. Now instead of going right sides together, I'm taking the right side of that button placket, or front band they call it, and I'm putting the right side of that to the wrong side of the left front. And I definitely want to match up my plaid. I use a lot more pins when I'm matching a plaid than when I'm not. The side with the interfacing, even though this fabric I did pre-wash it, but the side with the interfacing is still held a little bit more taut than the other side. So I kind of have to condense in the uninterfaced side, but that's okay. And anytime you have something where you have one side that's a little bit bigger than the other, put that bigger side down when you're sewing so that the feed dogs help to pull that along. That's pretty good though. Okay, to the machine. So I'm sewing at the 15 line or 5/8 line here, all the way down. Okay, that's a nice easy first step for us. And now the instructions say to grade the seam allowances. That means to cut one shorter than the other so it reduces the bulk. So I'm going to take the interfaced one because that's the bulkiest one, and I'm just cutting that down in half. So can you see I'm just riding my scissors on top of that other layer of seam allowance so that I know I'm not going to clip it. I'm kind of holding my scissors in that sideways position. Okay, to the iron. You want to push the seam allowance toward the band now, away from the front. So you see that would be my wax dot for the pocket. So I'd be accidentally erasing it right now. So I think the pin is good there. Now you can see what I mean, that this part is just going to wrap right over. That's a pretty wide button band. I don't actually love that. And I don't love that I'm seeing this little bit of the aqua color there. I think it would look cleaner if I just ended on the black. I'm going to take liberties and just turn under a little bit more on this edge. As long as it's straight. Yep, I think so. Hey, that looks the best. And on a finer men's shirt, that's what they do. They match up the plaid so that the button placket has the plaid matching, like, vertical and horizontal. Now that looks good, doesn't it? Yes, that's definitely good. So now you can see what I mean, that my next step is going to be sewing it from the outside. And isn't that better than sewing it on the inside and just hoping it looks good on the outside? And again, I want to match up that plaid. And this folded edge is just coming over to cross the line that I already sewed, like just to cover that line of stitching. Looking good. For the function of this button placket, I only have to sew this one edge, but it definitely looks more balanced if you sew both edges. So sewing this edge is the critical one. Sewing this edge is more decorative, like just so it looks balanced. So now I don't have a guideline that I can use. All I'm doing is aiming my needle maybe like 2 millimeters from the edge of that fold. And I want to make any adjustments that I need to so I know I'm covering up that line of stitching and I know everything is looking straight. And I'm trying to make sure that plaid gets matched. So you see with my left hand, I'm trying to scoot down that plaid just a smidge. I'm sort of bullying it as I go. And see how it's looking. Oh yeah, that looks good. Okay. First edge is stitched down. Looking pretty good. I'm going to have to iron that nice. And so now I'll come up this edge. Okay, take that to the iron and press that flat. Oh, I'm getting excited. This is nice. This is the left front. And there's some evidence that I bullied it while I was sewing it, right? You can see I was tugging it. So hopefully I can press that all looking flat and hide the fact that I bullied it like that. Oh my goodness, yes. Nobody will ever know. On the instructions, they say to sew in another 1/4 inch on each side, and that's totally a design decision. It's up to you if you want to have a double row of stitching. I'm happy with mine. I think I'm going to leave it. This is the right front, so I've got it laying right side down. And now we've got 2 folds to make on this one. It doesn't have a separate front band. It just folds and folds. There are 2 lines marked on the pattern, the fold line and the facing line. And I don't ever feel the need to mark these lines. I just want to know what that measurement is. Or on a plaid, I just need to know where does that land on the plaid, because that's where I'm going to use the lines in the plaid to help me, right? So that is coming right down this line for the first fold. And there's no interfacing in here. It's just a double fold. And so that, that extra layer of fabric kind of acts as the interfacing. Then we turn again at what they call the facing line. And again, I want to make sure it looks good on the outside. This is going to button like that. So I think that looks really smart. So I want it nice and straight according to my plaid. Fantastic. And now I can pin that edge and sew that down. So again, I'll sew this edge just for the function of it, and that edge just to make it balanced. Okay, and again, I don't have a guideline on the side, and so I'm just eyeballing it to come down close to that folded edge. I keep a hand in behind to keep some tension on the fabric as it goes through. I'm not pulling it through, I'm just keeping tension on it. And then right back down the outside edge. Oh, that's pretty satisfying. It's so nice. Okay, let's move on to the pockets. Yay! So with both pockets laying right side down on my ironing board, I'm going to be just turning a 1/4 inch. And they don't interface this top piece either. So that seems okay. So 1/4 inch and a 1/4 inch. You can measure that with your sewing gauge, or you can eyeball it. Okay, beautiful. Looks nice. So we turn it this way along the hemline. Let's see. So again, I'm just going to see what line of my plaid that hemline lands on, and it's just below there. So I'm going to fold it just like that, and I'm not pressing this because I don't want an inside out crease across the top. I'll be sewing it at the 15 line or 5/8 line there and there, both sides. So it's just a little seam there. I'm going to have these curved edges to ease in. So I'm going to do my regular stitching at the 15 line, come out, increase my stitch length, and do a basting stitch around there at the edge of my presser foot, and then come back to a regular stitch length here, which sounds bothersome, but it's not a big deal. I'll show you. With my regular stitch length, which is the default of 2.5 millimeters, it's basically just back tack, sew, back tack at the 15 line or 5/8 line. Cut my thread there, and now I want a tail of thread for down here, and I'm going to be at the edge of my presser foot, and I'll increase the stitch length to 5 and just sail around these curves. And then when I'm back up into the straight section, cut at least 6 inches of thread, and then do my other little fold at the top with the regular 2.5 stitch length, and back to the 15 line or 5/8 line. Next pocket, same thing. I like to chain them together so that it just makes it easier to feed it in. And then down here, edge of the presser foot, long stitch length. Now, of course, you can certainly do a lot less beeping if you just did your top corners and then your curves. That's fine too. And back to the iron. Do the magic flip, stick my finger right into that corner, poke it out nice and pointy. You can use closed up scissors carefully to poke those corners out. You really want to get those out fully. And then look, that's a cute little way to finish off the top of the pocket to help me ease those curves in. I've got my long thread, and I'm not really pulling the thread. I'm shuffling the fabric along the thread. So I just hold the thread and shuffle, shuffle. See how it just pulls that curved edge in? Here's what can often happen is sometimes people press it when it's big like that. No, push it out till you just have your 1.5 centimeters or 5/8 of an inch sticking in there. I can press across the top, and then following this same fold down, and nice and smooth curves. You don't want any flat parts, any pointy corners. You just want smooth curves. It goes straight again in the center here. That's what we're looking for. Beautiful. Oh, I like this pocket. No funny corners, no flat spots. So see how this comes in, out and back in? I don't like that. I want that to look nice and straight. Pretty small detail, but that's what it's all about. So now never sew around the curve here until you get it onto the shirt. I find that beginners make that mistake a lot. They sew these edges down, and that's not right, because then you end up with a double line of stitching. It does not look good. So the only place I'm sewing right now is here along that edge. All that shows on the outside is the line of stitching that follows that point. So I think that's quite a nice pocket. I'll do the same on the other one, and then I'll go to the machine for that little stitch. I do want to make sure that this inside fold is actually inside. Yeah, I don't want anything that looks like that, right? Keep that to the inside. We don't want it showing from the outside. And then nice and close to this inside edge and nice and straight, I'm going to sew that down. Small back tacks. So again, I don't have a sewing guideline here. I'm just eyeballing it with a nice clean pivot at the point. And then go right into the next one. I think I missed my pivot point there. I pivoted too early. It won't look symmetrical if I pivot too early, I think. There, that's got it. I'll give that a quick press, and then we're ready to put this onto the front of the shirt. Then this press is just to set the thread and make everything look fabulous. Beautiful. I've pinned my pocket on according to the markings on the pattern where the top of the large pocket was, just so that plaid matched perfectly like that. It just looks so beautiful when you match the plaid. So there we go. So you can just sew nice and close to the edge around, and that's no problem with back tack and top and bottom. But I want to show you my favorite way, which I've done in a video before, but it's really nice where you start upside down. You start here, come in, over, around, over, and back out, and that gives you these reinforced corners that look really sharp. So let me show you that. So I'm starting upside down, and I want to sink my needle down right even with that top stitch. So I'm going to be right there, and I'm angling in a little bit, like maybe a 1/4 inch, not even. Small back tack, and come up nice and close to the top. I want to just hit that spot, like that millimeter from the edge. Pivot, and then I'm going to count stitches. I think it'll probably be 2 stitches, 1 and 2. And I just want to do the same on the other side. If it was 3 stitches here, I would do 3 on the other side. But 2 is good. Okay, and now I'm going to be coming down again, just eyeballing my way along that edge. Sometimes it's hard to see my edge, especially when the plaid matches so nicely. It's really hard to see the edge. Right up to the corner. Okay, pivot and come in 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Ah, that went 3. Okay, 3 will do. Okay, now I'm angling back to this point where that line of stitching is. So I'm putting that directly in front of the needle. There we go. And a little back tack. You can see that nice little reinforced corner. It looks so pro, right? And it's not hard to do. And even though I went 2 stitches on one side, 3 on the other, it still looks pretty great. I'm pretty happy with that. Both fronts are done now. It did shift a little bit on me. The plaid is just a hair off now because of the motion of the presser foot coming around. If you have a walking foot, that's a great time to use it because it makes the top layer stay where you put it. Like the presser foot walks along and helps everything to stay where you pinned it. Mine did shift a little bit, but I'm going to call that good enough. Putting those fronts aside, and now the backs.
So I thought this was a big box pleat, so I did it wrong twice. But it's not a big box pleat. It's a small pleat on either side. So I need 2 notches. One at the beginning of that pleat and one where the pleat comes to. So now you just take that notch that's closer to the center and bring it to the notch that's further from the center. Easy peasy. Okay, so this notch comes over to there, and this notch comes over to there. I want that to be symmetrical on my plaid, so I'm going to fudge it a little bit. I'm going to take a little bit from there and a little bit from here so that it's symmetrical on my plaid, and I'm ending up still good-ish. Okay, alrighty, so I've just got them pinned. I'm not going to sew across the top, and we're going to put the yoke on, and then we'll have a little bit of wiggle room there. So I'm taking this yoke right side together with the body. There's a double notch that should match up to the double notch in the body. I guess that's there. So I'll go from both ends toward the center. Okay, now I'm getting there. Okay, and that does seem like it's going to work out now. Now before I sew that though, I'm going to take the other yoke, and I basically want to place the right side of this yoke together with the right side of this one. So the 2 yokes are going right side together. They just happen to have the whole back sandwiched in between. Pin across, making sure everything stays nice and together and even. All of my raw edges are together. Right, you can see the brighter color on this side. The 2 yokes are right side together. Good. And now we'll go to the machine and sew right across there at the 15 line or 5/8 line. And then to the iron. Sandwiching the yoke like that makes it look good on the outside and makes it look good on the inside. Right, you've got clean lines on both sides. I had to turn my yoke on the cross grain because it wouldn't fit across with the fabric that I had. And so this is on the opposite grain, and it's not a balanced plaid. You see how these squares are sideways, these are lengthwise. And so there was no way I could match up the plaid across this back yoke. Sometimes they cut the yoke on the bias. Maybe I should have cut it on the bias so that it looked more intentional. But anyway, that is what it is. So now I'm pulling both yokes up so that I can press this seam nice and flat and make sure it's flat on the inside as well. I don't want any extra folds in here. So kind of push it away. Good, nice and flat. That looks great. And now I'm going to take it back to the machine and do a row of edge stitching along here. So just coming straight across here, again just eyeballing a millimeter or 2 above that seam. You can put the edge of your presser foot along that seam. That makes it a little bit easier. I do like the look of an edge stitch. You can even do 2 lines if you want, edge and then edge of your presser foot. Looking nice there with that little edge stitch. To put the fronts in, lay the front how I want it to end up. Here's the whole neckline, back here, front here. I want to get this sandwiched in between these 2 layers. So I'm picking this up. I'm just taking the yoke and the front, and they are, I guess it's the right side of the yoke going to the wrong side of the front. That's good so far. And now I'm gonna flip this edge over, like turning in my seam allowance like that, and then grabbing that seam allowance from the inside. Can you see that? It is a little bit of a puzzle, but that's how you need to grab it. There are other ways like the burrito method where you roll everything up, but this really is easy. I'm going to show you one more time and see if I can say it more clearly. All right, I've got them laid like this. Let's move the top one out of the way. Then I can pick up the front and pick up the yoke. Edges are together. Take my other piece of yoke and wrap it around and grab it from the inside. Good. Hopefully that's clear. And then I'm just going to hold this, don't let go, because I'll have to rearrange everything, and I want to bring those 3 edges out. Good. So what I essentially have here is the same thing that I had on the back. The 2 layers of the yoke are now right side together, and the front is sandwiched in between. Pin there, and then follow those edges down to the corners. Pin all 3 corners together, and then the middle should come together nicely. No pleat to worry about here. Good, so that's that. So now just normal sewing, 15 line or 5/8 line. Here we go. Good. So those 3 layers are sewn together, and then it just all pulls out. Nice and easy. There's my whole yoke. Good inside, good outside. Let's do the other side now. So there's the whole shirt. It's laying right side up. Take my front, also laying right side up. Let's move the top out of the way and get the shirt and the yoke back to back, right? So it's the wrong side of the shirt going to the right side of the yoke. Good. And maybe I'll even just stick a pin here. Now this other yoke part has to wrap around. It's going to curl under to meet those corners. See that? There. And then I can shift my pin to be through all 3 layers. Good. And then just follow those edges till you get to the corners. There's 1, 2, and then 3 corners. Pin the corners together and the centers. And sew that. No problem, right? There's the yoke all sewn together, and the front just pulls right out. Awesome. Let's take that to the iron. Okay, it really must be time for a break because I just did my edge stitch and thought I was filming, but I was not. But it's exactly the same kind of thing that I did on the back of the yoke. I just edge stitched the 2 front yokes, so that looks beautiful. And now that is done for the day. Looking wonderful.
Okay, so what do you think? It's looking pretty fine, I have to say. I love it so far. Got the button placket done, the pockets done, the back yoke I think is looking nice. Right, and that pleat in the back looks good. So I'm happy so far. Join me for the next video where I'll be doing the neckband and the collar, which I think are kind of the hard parts. So once we get that part done, it's smooth sailing from there. So I don't think I'm gonna get this done in time for Christmas, but you know what? There's never a bad time to have a shirt made for you, so that's okay. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do so and hit the notification bell so you know when I post the next video for that collar and neckband. So until next time on Catherine Sews, you take care.